Good afternoon. Quite a few of the talks that I give are about life extension. In a way, this is going to be another one of those. However, this is not going to be about calorie restriction or cryonics or some other biotechnical enhancement, but rather how AGI can extend our lives, potentially extend our lives and improve it, and I believe improve it dramatically. My talk is going to, I've been slotted into the section of talking about the benefits and opportunities. So I'm very happy that I'm not going to have to address the negative aspects of the technology, because and I want to make it clear that I do believe there are risks and dangers involved in such powerful technology, but I'm happy that I don't have to address those issues. I'll leave that up to other people to elaborate on. Also, because I'm just talking after Stephen, I'd just like to make clear that my talk is not really focusing on self-improving systems. Even though the technology will ultimately lead to that, it's not something I'm really addressing. So just to make sure we kind of switch context here, and that what I'm talking about are not inherently or are not at the level of self-improving systems. So let me start off by just clarifying a little bit what I mean by AGI. I'm happy to see that the term AGI has now actually become pretty mainstream. That in this conference it's used. There's actually a conference coming up on AGI. 6 years ago, when I was involved together with Ben Goertzel and a few other people in coming up with a term for this technology that we're working on, the term was really unknown, and now it's become mainstream. So I usually contrasted artificial general intelligence to conventional or narrow AI. So the focus is on acquiring and learning knowledge and skills, as opposed to having or encoding the knowledge and skills. So the important distinction is that new knowledge has to be acquired. A second distinction is that it's general, ongoing, cumulative, conceptual learning, generalized learning, as opposed to domain-specific and relatively fixed, rule-based knowledge or abilities that it has. Experience and self-motivated improvements versus externally initiated improvements. So that the system will, as it's active, as it's being used, it will improve itself, it will improve its capabilities and knowledge by learning, as opposed to a programmer sitting down and deciding what new features need to be added to the system. Now, also to set context for the main part of what I want to talk about, I just want to address the issues of pathways a little bit and some of the difficulties involved. So I believe there are fundamentally two pathways at the extremes. The one is ongoing incremental AI improvements. It's basically doing more of what is being done now. I believe that will eventually lead to AGI. Eventually it'll become that obvious. Machines will become that powerful. Software technology will become that powerful that it'll kind of just fall out, that eventually we'll just have generally intelligent systems. I think that could take a long time. The second one is, of course, a dedicated, focused approach to specifically trying to develop systems that are AGI systems. Now, there are a few different ways of going about that. Logical, mathematical, theory-driven systems, and I don't really have the time to expand on any of them. Evolutionary, reverse engineering brain, directly going to adult-level engineered AGI, choosing a more developmental model, and then robotics and embedded. And I think we've actually heard about examples of each of these systems already today. Now, what are the major challenges to achieving AGI? From my experience and having been personally involved full-time in this for at least 6 years, probably more like 10, is I've come to the conclusion that these are some of the really important things. Obviously, you need a viable design. Now, that might sound very, very obvious, but if you actually try to find out how many teams or how many people believe they have a viable design, that even you would ask them and say, well, what is your design? Or do you believe you have a viable design? If there was a $50 million X prize for AGI, could you even enter the competition? You know, could you convince anybody that you actually have a hope of achieving it? I think there are very few people who have what they even themselves would consider as a viable design. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Primarily, I believe right now, because not very many people are even attempting to address this problem directly. Secondly, you need vision. You need big vision because you really are going against the mainstream of AI knowledge. You really are going against the mainstream of what people believe the situation is. And you need this vision to span this credibility gap and to see what you can achieve. Clearly some viable business or development plan to get the support that you need. Focusing on solving the problem of general intelligence. Very easy to get distracted and try and solve some interesting theoretical problem or some specific application, and that's really, really easy to for that to happen. Of course, if there's commercial pressure, then there's even more reason that you'll lose focus and try and solve some specific problem or meet some of your investors' requirements rather than trying to solve the problem of AGI. Leadership is always important in any large, difficult project, and of course, funding. How far are we from AGI? Well, it's up on the slide, so I guess it's going to be recorded. I believe we're much closer to it than most people believe. Almost certainly less than 10 years, and quite likely less than 5. So, okay, here I've said it, and I guess it's recorded. There's some significant shortcuts to AGI that I believe are overlooked. I think a lot of unnecessary problems being solved or addressed, and a lot of wrong paths or unnecessary difficult paths being followed. I don't believe hardware power is a serious limitation, and I believe the pieces of the puzzle are largely there. It's a matter of, out of all these millions of pieces that are out there, is of course to identify the ones that need to be picked and put together. And the AGI winter is ending somewhat. There is a real revival. As I mentioned, there's actually a conference happening. We have this conference here really focusing on AGI. AR Magazine was featuring cognitive systems, and there's definitely some movement happening. And then, of course, lastly, and to me most importantly, the work of my company that we're doing gives me a strong indication of what I think can be achieved in less than 5 years. Okay, let me talk about get to the main part and talk about the benefits of AGI, and I've arranged them roughly in order in which I think they will occur, though there's obviously a lot of overlap. Now, benefits is a bit of an understatement, and I'm a little bit difficult position here because our project is a stealth project, and I can't really talk about what we're doing specifically, but perhaps later on you'll see through some of the other things I talk about of just how significant the benefits can be in these different categories. Now, labor is the biggest cost in just about any business, or certainly in many businesses. And clearly AGIs could very dramatically reduce labor costs. So that would be a very significant improvement. Of course, the quality of design and products and services that are given could dramatically improve. So the improvement in services and products clearly would benefit everybody and lead to an improvement in the standard of living on an overall scale. There will be displacements undoubtedly as this happens. Reduced workers' risks, that's been talked about for a long time, and it is happening, but this trend will accelerate. Now, the accelerating improvement will in part come about because many of the systems within companies will have fewer and fewer humans in the critical timing loops. So that things that need to happen fast and efficiently, humans are often the slowest link in the chain and the least reliable link in the chain. And as more and more systems are automated, that will lead to an accelerating improvement as we really truly become a paperless society, for example, which hasn't really happened yet. At the moment, computers are really used more to generate more paper and more reports more efficiently. But as humans are taken out of the loop, the costs will, those improvements will accelerate. Next, in science and technology, many of you here are involved with nanotechnology, or are certainly interested in nanotechnology, and I believe that AGI will significantly accelerate the development of nanotechnology, which by itself will lead to many significant improvements. Medical science, I'll actually talk a little bit more in the next slide about that. Environmental technology, not only will we have much better models about environmental issues, but we'll also have better technology to prevent environmental damage and to clean it up by having machines that have more intelligence. Human intelligence really is a big bottleneck for many of the problems that humanity faces. Now, lastly, here is computer science, and I put seed AI in brackets there because I certainly don't want to talk about that in any detail, but the clear implication is that if you have systems that approach human-level intelligence, even if they're not generally capable as humans, but if they can think and reason and learn like humans, at a certain point of development, clearly they will be able to improve their own design. And so it is part of the equation. This abstract here is actually from an essay I wrote about life extension and AGI. Imagine 100,000 PhD-level researchers focusing their total efforts on life extension and anti-aging research. Imagine them working 24/7 with no distraction from grant proposals, office politics, or attractive co-workers. Imagine the fantastic progress we would see in finding solutions for eliminating debilitating disease and reversing the deathly effects of aging. And if you really think through how intelligent systems and having hundreds of thousands of PhD-level brains working 24/7 at solving aging problems and disease, clearly we will see significant progress. These are difficult problems, and we need more brain power to address them. Move over to education, and I guess I could continue. Imagine millions of highly competent teachers, et cetera, et cetera. That will make a difference to us, undoubtedly. Intelligently aggregated and validated worldwide facts and news freely available. At the moment, we have a lot of information available to us, but the way it's presented to us, the way it's selected, the way it's aggregated, is extremely primitive. A news story, by some reason, is put on the front page, or comes up in some selector, and people click on it, which automatically increases its popularity, so more people click on it, and you end up with really stupid stories, basically, taking up all your bandwidth. There isn't a lot of intelligence in the way that is happening now. An intelligent agent, an intelligent system that can truly give us information from many different perspectives across the world and from different languages, and intelligently analyze it. The kind of information we get to talking to people who are from different cultures or have different backgrounds or different information, and the kind of insights we gain from that, which is very difficult to get, with the relatively dumb systems that we have right now, I think will give us a much better understanding and will make us much more informed. The other thing is we can also use AGI tools to vastly improve our ability to think and to reason things through. And that leads me really to the most important part that I wanted to address here, and that is the ethics and morality of mankind, and how I believe AGI will help improve us, will make us better people. Now, my thesis here is that a significant portion of immoral behavior is really irrational behavior. And I think one can see that often if somebody does something bad, something that really everybody recognizes they shouldn't have done, how often is it because they didn't think it through properly? They acted on the spur of the moment, or they acted emotionally, or they didn't have enough information, they didn't get good advice. A lot of immoral behavior really falls into that category. And the kind of systems I'm talking about is really a personal advisor that we will have, where an AGI will get to know us, will have our background, and will become a trusted advisor to us, because it will be able to, it'll have more information than we have, it'll be able to think things through better than we can, and help us make decisions. And I think it will help us, it'll help us become better people. We'll basically be wiser through it. Now, the second part of bad behavior that often people point out are psychological problems. Now, one can't necessarily draw a complete distinction between the two, but again, AGI will help in psychological behavior by helping us train ourselves, retrain ourselves by whispering in our ear when should we really be doing this right now? Isn't this just your emotion talking here? Do you really want to do this? Apart from, of course, the potential benefits of having better drugs to deal with psychological issues and so on. So again, I think we can see quite a few benefits from AGI technology there. Now, better law enforcement technology is definitely something that one would also have. So if people can't get away with immoral behavior, or if crime doesn't pay, to put it that way, there are many parts of the world where crime actually pays. So what happens is people get encouraged to be criminals because it's really a rational kind of thing to do under the circumstances. But if society turns around where people are generally more moral, where crime doesn't pay as much, then that'll have a positive feedback cycle where it'll just be, you will be in a society where being moral is just a win-win situation. It's in your interest to act that way. Now, at the social level, of course, on the political and government level, one would hope that a lot of that additional rationality will also prevent countries going to war willy-nilly and other irrational acts like that, and really have more foresight in foreseeing the consequences of their actions, and perhaps find better ways of resolving conflicts. The one thing I skipped past that I wanted to mention is also the ideas of greater transparency and more knowledge available to everybody. And there are two books in particular that come to mind. The one is James Halperin's Truth Machine. I can highly recommend that book in terms of sketching a society where everybody speaks the truth. And one can argue about how realistic some of the scenarios are, but it really pushes the whole idea of what can happen, how it can change society when basically lying is no longer an option in a way. And the other one is David Brin's Transparent Society, which again is a fantastic book, I think, to explore these ideas on how society can change. And I think AGI will play a big part in making both of those scenarios happen, which I believe, again, will help improve life. So in summary, augmented by personal AGIs, I believe we can become more capable, more wealthy, more healthy, and more moral. And to allow us to move up further Maslow's hierarchy, where we're not just fighting for survival, where we don't have to rely on our basic instincts to live life, which is, survival and reproduction, but where we can really rise high above that and really fulfill our destiny. The option of vastly expanded lifespans, which is dear to many of us, that living an indefinite lifespan becomes a real option to all of us. The intelligence of AGIs will also give us more available energy and resources, yet with a better environment. Now, the other thing that I haven't mentioned, and I just want to quickly mention here, is that clearly AGI can also help us avoid some of the problems and catastrophes that we potentially are facing. And I'm sure other speakers will expand on the downsides, but clearly we all know in today's society we are facing a lot of potential problems, and I think the intelligence and the technology of AGI can certainly help us avoid some of these catastrophes. Opportunities, I'm out of time, so I'll just spend a few seconds on talking about that, which suits me just fine. Because, as I said, we are a stealth company, and talking about opportunities on the business side, I can't really talk much about the specifics of it, but I really do believe we are now on what I think could be called the fifth wave. First wave being where physical power was what it was all about. The second wave, where money was what it was all about. Then information. Somebody hijacked the fourth wave as really saying the internet, networking technology is the fourth wave. It's debatable. But the fifth wave, I think, of having intelligence to help us improve life really is a very fundamental shift in how humans will develop. So the personal, improved and potentially indefinite life, and on the social side, avoiding catastrophe. So I believe that correctly harnessed, improved intelligence can give improved life. Thank you.